Hi, I'm John Kelly of the Kelly Law Team. This is video 2 of our multi-part series on birth injuries. This particular video will be on Hypoxic Ischemic Encephalopathy, or HIE, which is a brain injury from lack of oxygen during birth. And it is understandably a frightening and heartbreaking experience. HIE, also called birth asphyxia, occurs when a baby's brain is deprived of adequate oxygen and blood flow around the time of delivery. It's estimated to affect about 1.5 in 1,000 live births in developing countries. In these cases, every second counts in the delivery room. Parents often have many questions. How did this happen? Could it have been prevented? What does it mean for my baby's future? This section will provide answers about HIE, including information about what you can do if you have a child that has suffered from HIE. I want to go over causes and risk factors of HIE. Now, HIE can stem from various complications before or during labor that disrupt oxygen delivery to the baby. Common causes include problems like placental abruption, when the placenta detaches too early, a prolapsed or compressed umbilical cord, uterine rupture, or prolonged difficult labor. Severe infection in the mother or baby, heavy maternal bleeding, or high maternal blood pressure can also trigger asphyxia. In some cases, misuse of labor medications or delays in performing a needed C-section can contribute. For example, excessive use of labor-inducing drugs despite signs of fetal distress can lead to oxygen deprivation. In one legal case, a hospital's misuse of Pitocin led to a baby's HIE and subsequent cerebral palsy, resulting in a very large verdict for the family. It's important to know that not all the cases are foreseeable or preventable. Sometimes HIE occurs despite proper care. However, careful monitoring of the baby's heart rate during labor and prompt action, such as an emergency delivery if the baby is in distress, are critical to reducing risk. I'll now go over incidents and outcomes. The severity of HIE can range from mild, which is brief recoverable oxygen drop, to severe, prolonged deprivation. Unfortunately, moderate to severe HIE is often life-threatening. Research indicates that HIE is fatal for 20% to 50% of affected infants. And of those who survive, around 25 to 60% have long-term neurological impairments like cerebral palsy, seizures, or cognitive disabilities. Another study found that about 15 to 20% of newborns with HIE do not survive the neonatal period, and an additional approximately 25% develop permanent disabilities. The prognosis really depends largely on how long and severe the oxygen deprivation was. Babies with mild HIE may show transient symptoms, meaning irritability, feeding difficulties, but often recover with little to no lasting issues. Moderate HIE can lead to developmental delays or motor impairments. While severe HIE carries a high risk of significant brain damage or death, doctors use tools like brain scans, which is MRI, EEGs, and APGAR scores to assess a baby's condition after birth and gauge the severity of HIE. I'll now go over the treatment and care. Hypoxic Ischemic Encephalopathy is a medical emergency, and swift treatment can dramatically improve outcomes. The standard of care for moderate or severe HIE is therapeutic hypothermia, which means cooling the baby's body's temperature for a few degrees for 72 hours. This cooling treatment, started within 6 hours of birth, helps slow injury to the brain cells and has been shown to reduce the risk of death or severity and disability in survivors. After the cooling period, the baby is gradually worn back to the normal temperature. Alongside cooling, the neonatal intensive care team provides supportive care, ensuring the baby has adequate breathing support, a ventilator or oxygen as needed, controlling seizures with medications, and treating any underlying issues, like relieving a blocked umbilical cord or managing infection. Babies with HIE are typically cared for in the neonatal intensive care unit, or the NICU, by a specialized team. If complications arise as the child grows, additional interventions come into play. For example, infants who suffered HIE might later need physical or occupational therapy to address motor delays, speech therapy if they are feeding, or communication issues, and assistive devices like walkers or hearing aids if HIE affected those. There are early intervention programs in most states and often begin working with the baby in the first months of life to help reach developmental milestones. It's important to note that newborns with mild HIE who show no evidence of brain injury can often make a full recovery within a couple of weeks, while those with more severe HIE will need long-term management. Each baby's situation is unique. Some may overcome initial hurdles with minimal deficits, and others will require ongoing medical care and therapy. Doctors will typically schedule follow-up neurological exams and developmental assessments for any baby who experienced HIE to catch and treat emerging issues as early as possible. I'll now go over the prognosis and long-term outlook for HIE. Understandably, parents of an HIE baby worry about the future. Long-term outlook depends on the extent of the brain injury. Some children who went through HIE will be diagnosed with conditions like cerebral palsy, intellectual disabilities, or epilepsy down the road. Others might have more subtle learning or motor condition issues that only become apparent when they reach toddler or school age sometimes. On the positive side, with today's treatments, many babies with moderate HIE are surviving and doing far better than those possible decades ago. Cooling therapy has significantly improved outcomes, cutting the combined risk of death or major neurodevelopmental impairment by about 25% relative to no cooling. This means that some children who might have had very severe disabilities are now having milder effects or none at all because they were receiving that timely treatment. However, even with the best care, severe HIE can result in significant lifelong challenges, and families should be prepared for a range of possible outcomes. Doctors usually cannot say for certain how a newborn with HIE will fare until the child is a bit older and we see how they develop. It can be an emotional roller coaster of waiting and hoping for milestones. So now I'll go over the emotional and psychological support for families. Watching your newborn struggle for life in the NICU due to HIE is severely traumatic. Parents often describe feeling of shock, guilt, anger, overwhelming grief for the normal birth experience they lost. It's important to know that these feelings are normal and that you are not alone. In fact, studies show that nearly 40% of parents with babies in the NICU experience symptoms of PTSD in the first few months, and about 25% continue to have PTSD symptoms even after the baby comes home. Don't hesitate to seek emotional support. Many hospitals have social workers, counselors, or their chaplains who specialize in helping NICU families cope. Therapy or support groups, both in person and online, can be immensely helpful for processing the trauma of a very difficult birth. Connecting with other parents who have been through HIE can provide hope and practical advice too. One excellent resource is Hope for HIE, a worldwide nonprofit organization with a support network. Hope for HIE has connected over 8,000 families globally, offers dozens of topic-specific and location-based support groups. New HIE families can join private online groups or monthly video chats to share experience, ask questions, or simply vent to people who truly understand. These communities remind you that many children who start life this way grow and thrive, and that there is a network of parents and survivors out there to lean on. Beyond peer support, consider speaking with mental health professionals if you find yourself struggling with anxiety, flashbacks, or depression after the NICU experience. Addressing these feelings is not only important for your well-being, but also allows you to be the best advocate for your baby. I'll now go over the latest developments in care strategies. The field of neonatal medicine is always advancing. In recent years, research has been exploring therapies to further improve outcomes in HIE. Cooling is the gold standard, but scientists are looking at adjunct treatments. For instance, certain medications or stem cell therapies to see if they can enhance brain repair when used alongside hypothermia. While no adjunct therapy is standard yet, clinical trials are ongoing. As your child grows, pediatric rehabilitation medicine offers new technologies like constraint-induced therapy to strengthen the weaker limbs and innovative technologies, for example, mobile devices or communication aids for kids with motor or speech impairments. Early intervention remains key, and starting the therapies in infancy can take advantage of the brain's plasticity and often leads to better outcomes. It is encouraged to have regular development evaluations, and most families should not hesitate to ask their pediatrician about emerging therapies or to get referrals to specialists, pediatric neurologists, physiatrists, etc. And these people can tailor a rehabilitation plan for your child. Many children with HIE go on to attend school without any special education services. They play, they laugh, they participate in family life. They may have challenges, but with love, early help, and appropriate medical care, they can make remarkable progress. I'd now like to go over legal rights and resources for parents. In some HIE cases, parents are left wondering if more could have been done to prevent the injury. Perhaps there were warning signs on the fetal monitor that went unaddressed, or delayed decision to perform a C-section. If you suspect medical negligence contributed to your child's HIE, it may be worthwhile to consult a birth injury attorney. Hospitals should adhere to established standards of care. For example, timely responding to fetal distress. When those standards are not taken care of and breached and harm results, it's considered malpractice. Families have legally pursued compensation to help cover the immense cost of caring for the child with HIE-related disabilities. Some cases are resolved in settlements, while others have resulted in court verdicts awarding families funds for lifelong care. For instance, one family proved that mismanagement of labor led to their son's HIE and cerebral palsy, and the jury awarded $14.5 million to cover the child's medical needs and suffering. Of course, not every adverse outcome is due to malpractice. Sometimes HIE happens despite proper care, but it's your right as a parent to seek answers. Requesting a copy of the medical records and an expert review can provide clarity on what happened. If negligence was involved, a legal claim cannot only provide financial relief, example, funds for the therapies and specialized equipment, and lost wages if parents must stop working to provide for the child, but also it holds the hospital accountable, potentially prompting better protocols to protect future babies. Pursuing legal action can be emotionally difficult, so weigh it carefully. Many law firms offer free case evaluations, and there is typically no upfront costs. Attorneys in these cases often work on a contingency, which means they don't get paid unless you win through the compensation. Now, statute of limitations sometimes will apply, and that means that there's going to be a time limit to file the claim, which varies by state, often 2 to 3 years after the injury, though for infants, some states extend the deadline. Speaking to a lawyer sooner rather than later can help you understand your options. Remember, seeking justice or compensation is a personal decision. Do what's right for your family's peace of mind and stability. I'll now go over support groups and financial assistance. Caring for a child who has experienced HIE can strain a family not just emotionally, but also financially. The good news is help is available. Beyond personal insurance, families may qualify for programs such as Supplemental Security Income, SSI, a federal benefit for disabled children from lower-income households, which provides a monthly stipend to help with the expenses. Children with significant neurological impairments often also qualify for state Medicaid programs or waivers, which can offer medical bills and therapy costs even if you have private insurance. Don't forget to tap early intervention for children under 3, or later, the public school system's special education services. These programs are mandated by law and provide at no cost to the families, offering therapies, specialists, developmental support, and more. Your hospital's social worker or case manager can usually guide you through the process of accessing these resources soon after discharge. There are also several nonprofit organizations that provide grants or assistance to families of children with birth injuries. For example, the United States Cerebral Palsy organization, though named for CP, offers support that may direct you to financial resources for therapy, equipment, or respite care. The Chelsea Hutchinson Foundation, which is for children with seizures, or local charities might help your child develops epilepsy from HIE. It's also worth reaching out to condition-specific groups like HOPE for HIE, which not only give emotional support, but often can point you to the grants, online fundraisers, or state programs that other members have used. Some states have birth injury compensation funds. For instance, Virginia and Florida have programs that provide lifetime care funds for infants with certain birth-related neurological injuries. While these are not available everywhere, it's worth researching if your state offers such a fund. Lastly, consider joining a support group for parents of children with special needs. Groups for parents of children with disabilities, non-condition specific, can be a great source of practical advice. From navigating insurance to funding affordable medical supplies. For example, Parent to Parent USA and Family Voices are national networks that connect parents to resources in their state. Remember, you don't have to navigate this journey alone. There's a community of people and organizations ready to help shoulder the load, whether it's through shared knowledge, a listening ear, or financial assistance. Your baby is fortunate to have you as an advocate, and with this right support, you can ensure that they get the best start possible even after such a difficult beginning. So now that I've gone over HIE, I encourage you to reach out with any additional questions that you may have regarding it. If you do have questions, you can reach me at 602-283-4122 at Kelly Law Team.